Hi, Brad.
How are we doing?
Hi, Al. Brad, are you guys on a job right
I'm at work here, but she's on a job.
now?
She's
Okay,
had a pretty good week, so
good.
she's busy. So if that works, we'll reschedule, or if it doesn't work to reschedule, maybe catch this next week then.
Yeah, that's fine. I shot her an email to kind of respond back to her, her question on the sales report. So,
Good.
hi, Al. How are you?
I'm good, Sheree. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for
Good.
hopping on here. You're in for a good treat. You guys all just missed Suzanne Austin on Liz's webinar. So we're totally using, abusing the Austins right now here at home office. Can you tell?
But success needs to be shared.
Oh, absolutely. When you're doing things right, you got to mimic it for sure.
Yep.
They're super creative over there. Some of the things that they come up with, I'm just like, wish I thought of that. Hey, Brandon.
Hey, going
Brandon,
on?
you missed a good session right now. Liz's webinar for marketing. You're gonna have to watch that one later.
Was that another one? I just was on one with her not that long ago.
Yeah, but right now she had Suzanne Austin and Mike Ivan kind of talking and going through their processes. So, yeah,
Oh,
watch it later. You'll enjoy it.
It's on our, what you call it?
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
okay.
Is he on there now?
Hey, Megan. We'll give him a couple more minutes and then I'll introduce Ted for you. All right. I know there's a bunch of you guys hopping on here. All right. Here we go. Hi, Tanya.
Hi, Cherie. How are you?
I'm good. Long time no see. Just kidding.
I know.
All right. I'm going to give him like another 2 minutes, Ted, and then we'll get started and I'll introduce you. Let's see. Hopefully we can get a few more of you guys on here. All right, Ted, I'm going to go ahead and get you introduced and get you started. They'll have the recording to reference back to, so if they miss anything important. But everybody, this is Ted Austin. Thanks for, making this adjustment and filling in for Rebecca Beard this month. I appreciate that. But you guys are in for a treat. Ted's going to kind of give you a 2-for-1 session real quick here. So freestyle it because that's how he does it best. The first portion, he's going to talk about their business of moving and relocating people. So they run and operate their own moving company. He's going to kind of walk you through some of the pros and cons of that, some of the logistics of that, and then we'll open it up for you guys to have some questions, Q&A questions or discussion. And then after we wrap that up, we're going to kind of take it into a whole different topic, talking about sort of safety, OSHA regulations, protocols, some of the challenges he's faced and how he's kind of overcome them and has implemented some now procedures based on, the experience that he's went through. So, yes, you guys, he's been in this brand for, what is it, 5 years now, 4 years? It feels like forever, but I know it's just been kind of a short little time. It's so much has happened for your guys' brand in just these few years. But I'll introduce Ted. Here you guys go, and let him kind of introduce himself to you guys. Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, Sheree, for the introduction. And it has been 3 years. So I want to go ahead and jump right into moving. And Sheree, if you can later, when I ask you to, I have some slides that I could share my screen. It would be awesome. I just really only have 2 slides for that. So for not everyone has the same thought when it comes to moving. I realized very early in this is that everything is moving. We have to either move it to donation, we either have to move it to disposal, or we have to move it to sell it. But essentially, we're in the moving business. And when I did my first third party out to a mover, I realized one, I have no control of the schedule, which is horrible. So now I'm like, it was just extra stress. I need to call a mover, especially on emergency. I got to call these guys. And then they said, do you vet out movers? And I'm like, yeah, I got 3 companies. So I got to call 3 companies. And they're like, oh, let me check. Let me move my schedule around. Then it's the same with the other company. It's just, I'm like, what am I doing? Then when I finally got a mover to come and do our first 2 jobs, the first time they showed up, they used a truck that they used for garbage. And I'm like, you're kidding me. Like, there's garbage in the truck. Oh my gosh. The second time the client just asked for one specific thing. Please don't disassemble the lift chair. It came in through the door in one piece. So what did they do? The movers, like they do, is they take it apart. I didn't know at that part also in the game, I was very young and didn't know that I could set those expectations and say, hey, when the movers come in, they're going to disassemble XYZ and just to get it done. Anyway, those 2 bad experiences back to back, I said, nope, we're done with this. And I said, we got to start our own moving company. So number 1, you start with the exact same way that you started with carrying transitions, create a DBA and get a bank account. You got to get the bank account first. Get a bank account.
Come on, Halla.
Part 2 was to start closing deals in the moving company's name. And I would say, yes, we can pack, move, and resettle you. And in that time, I was renting U-Hauls and renting Penske's or Enterprise trucks. Really, it was U-Hauls the first year because I didn't realize Enterprise and Penske were better trucks. So U-Hauls, and I started with my own equipment. I started with the little cheap $35 dollies that were such a mistake. But these are all the bumps and bruises I learned, so I can tell everyone what you don't do. Then the next important thing you need after you get a bank account, the DBA set up, you don't even need to get all official. Get a mover. Find a mover. Put an ad out for a mover. $27 an hour, lead mover, $25 an hour, whatever it is that in your state that a lead mover would make. And if you drive by a moving company, if you see them all the time, move companies have on there, like, well, out here in Minnesota, they have, it'll say hiring movers starting $23 an hour. Go right along with whatever that is in your area, what a mover makes in your area. Get a mover with experience. So if you don't want to physically do it, just immediately hire 2 movers, but you hire them under your carrying transitions flag. You can hire one under your business flag, under your moving company's flag as well. And that's what we did. We hired, well, it was myself, and then I hired 1 mover. I had 1 guy that helped. He was already with carrying transitions, and we did all the moves. So once that started, we had the business, we had the bank account, and I had my clients write 2 checks. 1 to carrying transitions for packing and resettle. And then I had for anything that was physically move related, I signed it up under the moving company. And they wrote that check because I'm the move manager. I'm subbing the contract to my move company. And that's how we're able to keep control of the entire process. So with that being said, the movers not only moved the items, but they also did our donation disposal pickups. So anytime there's donation run, disposal pickup, and it required moving couches, going to a donation, moving couches to disposal, it was them who, that's the check. That's where the check was written to the moving company. So we ended up saving up around $18,000 through the moving company, and it happens quick because however you price your moves, the moving portion is about a third of your income on a full PMR, which is, we call a pack move resettle. On a full PMR, pack move resettle, moving is a third. And if a client says, I don't need you to resettle, moving is half. And then if they say, I don't need you to pack, I just need you to move, you don't get any of that money. You're just a move manager, and you get a little 10% bonus or whatever you add on to that. So we decided to do the full PMR. About 4 months in, when we got the 15 grand, I went and bought a truck. And Sherry, if I can share my screen.
You should have hosting ability now.
Oh, okay. I do. Here we go. So if everyone can see that. Everybody see a truck?
Yeah.
Okay, that's my truck. The first thing I did was slap Carrying Transition logos and then our moving company, Carrying Transitions, powered by Carrying Hit Moves. That number, so the state of Minnesota requires me to have a phone number, and I got to do all these other things. I'm not telling you to ignore what your state or city requires for you to have a moving company, but these are the things that I had to do. I had to get cargo insurance in order to have this household good movers permit. In order to be an official moving company, I had to have this stupid number, which means I had to have cargo insurance, a US DOT, and an MNDOT. Not all states are like this. These were the hoops that I had to jump through in order to have a full moving company. We shrink wrap. We have advanced moving equipment. So now I've grown. I buy the 4-inch rubber reels, the real moving equipment, and my movers that I originally hired, that we started out moving, really understand now the intricacies of moving. And we hire our pack team people, we put them under the movers because we want them to understand you don't pack a box and stick it in front of the couch. Because when the move team comes in the next day to pick up the couch, they got to move the boxes first, which is okay. The boxes still need to move, but then the boxes don't go into the truck. The boxes have to get staged. That's where we're touching items twice. So when we put our packers with our movers right in the initial part when they are being trained, they start to understand how we call it the way of the move. The way of the move is supposed to go. And so when you pack a box, I need it in the center of the room. I need it away for items. If you have time at the end of your packing shift, I need the packing items, boxes put in the garage. It makes it even faster so that we can be way more efficient and really squeeze every single dime and dollar out of a PMR or pack move resettle. So today, here we are. I'm looking to buy we are looking to buy our second truck. So this is just a 16-foot box truck. This will accommodate a den and a half. And if you get a really good mover that is spatial awareness, it can pack the hell out of a truck like Tetris, then you could probably get almost 2 bedrooms, but takes a lot of time. So sometimes even understanding that it's easier to just pack a truck 3/4 high instead of all the way full can save you almost 35-40 minutes if you have a longer or bigger truck. So based on square footage and how many bedrooms, I can immediately tell you what size truck we're going to need based on what size the square footage we're moving out of. There are some bumps and bruises that come with hiring movers. But it's really important that I'll address those bumps and bruises. you got to get them fully branded. Our movers always wear their 100% head to toe, just like I am, carrying transitions gear all the time. They understand and follow our company creed and motto. They live and die by our guidelines. So that's also good, because when we walk into senior communities, even if it's just the move that we did no packing, we did no resettle. Senior communities, it's a great advertisement tool because they see the truck parked out front. So it's just constant advertisement, and then we get constant compliments from our movers, because our movers are compassionate. They care about these seniors, and because this is the only moves we do, that's all we do. 16-foot box truck will accommodate 95% of your downsizing moves. The next truck we get will be a larger one, because it makes more sense. So that's my stick on moving. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, before questions. The moving truck. The minute you start charging for moving, we charge what is called a trip fee. That trip fee covers gas, covers my insurance, it covers wear and tear, maintenance. But anytime that truck leaves the warehouse, and even before I had a truck, I charged a trip fee. That's the truck payment. So I have to do 10 moves a month, and that's $2,225. So 10 moves a month covers our insurance, covers my truck payment, covers the gas. So when people say you can't do it because the budget is tight, you absolutely can. You just start with renting a truck before buying a truck. Okay. I'll open the floor to any questions.
All right, everybody, don't be shy. Don't make me ask all the questions either.
No questions? Pretty simple.
Come on.
Well, I know you mentioned that you started it after after you had a couple bad experiences, but how far into your carrying, after you purchased your carrying transitions territory did you start it? Because there was obviously a lot to learn with that too.
Yep. So we launched, our first job was January 29th. We were doing the moving under carrying transitions. My first technical move job was, I want to say mid-January. The moving company, we started probably in February. So really quickly, like I was just like, it doesn't make sense. Like the stress just to call 5 different people to get a date because the client said this date, and just the stress of that, I'm like, this is stupid.
Mhm.
To me, it didn't make sense. I'm not going to call company after company after company.
Deal. Thanks.
The profit on the moving portion is so simple, so easy. $90 per hour per person. That's what I bill. My loaded payroll for my mover is my moving lead is $34. So
The big markup. What's your truck fee that you're marking out for every time the truck leaves?
$225 for the 16, $125 for my transit van, $375 for the big truck.
Okay.
And I don't have a big truck, but I want a big truck. I'm going to get me a big truck one day, and it'll be $375. But right now we have to go lease it
I'm in the middle
from
of that at the
Penske.
moment. Thanks for letting me know.
Oh, shoot, that is 3, isn't it? I totally forgot about it. I meant Papa Lindsay.
Okay, sorry, Al, I thought he was asking a question. Ted, what kind of equipment do you have for like the warehouse, for the trucks, for these moves? Like in a sense of, obviously you've got your regular dollies and the 4-wheel dollies, but do you have other things like rolling bins, kind of?
Yeah,
I
Can you talk
about the supplies that you have?
I have some supplies, and I can provide a list. I buy mine. There's an owner out in Colorado. He had a moving company, and or is he in Wyoming? I think he's in Wyoming. I buy, my dollies are $75 a piece from a company called MES that we buy. Then we bought snap lock dollies. These are for moving mattresses. Because anytime you move a mattress, it requires two people. And I'm trying to figure out how to save time. Two people making one trip. Just get the mattress dolly. It costs $400, but you know what? You're going to make that back in just in time. And the mattress dolly can carry a mattress and a box spring and the headboards and the glass tables as well. Large pictures, super big TVs, 80 inches right on the floor. I mean, we've come so far so fast in moving. It's insane. But right now we get ranked really well on our moving, but I don't have any website for my moving company. I don't advertise to the local. Our only client is Caring Transitions. So that's a negative. I don't have the time to create like Google reviews, this website and web company. But then if I did, people would start calling it and saying, could you move me? And that would be awesome. But this is enough right now. I can't think about starting them like no. So.
And then how about like logistics? How many movers are you putting into a project? How many mover guys do you have like within that moving company? Average.
So currently we have 5
Okay.
movers. One is part-time. He's more of on our transition specialist side, but can be used as a mover. The other 4, Brian, our team lead, he is 100% a mover, but he can do everything else. He can sort, organize, donate. He can do all of it. He's really bad though at lotting. Most of them are all cross-trained. We only have a new one that is not cross-trained, so it helps. It just allows us to be extremely flexible. So when we run out of packers, our movers can be packers too.
Okay.
And
you
unpackers
separating-
and resettlers.
Are you separating like certain employees for insurance purposes for like moving aspect, or because of the state and how that's kind of allocated, does everybody rolled up as a mover on your insurance?
No, we have them as the moving company has its own insurance and liability, and it's truly just 2 people. So there's a workers' comp under there.
Okay.
That has 2 of them under that.
Can you
2
speak to
full-time
that
equivalent.
cost for the moving company? Because I know that's kind of a turnoff for some people with
Hmm.
starting their own. Is that like increase of workman's comp liability? Can you
Yep,
just
but it's
talk
all
about
under the moving company, and then again, so those costs, that's where you just have to it comes out of that trip fee.
Okay.
So
built it
if
into
you
your
do
plan?
10 moves a month, my payment on my truck is only $1,100 a month, or maybe $1,200. So I don't have all of my insurance, and everything comes out of my trip fee.
Okay.
And when we do disposal, not everyone's disposal is set up the same, but when we do a disposal run, we load the truck. My truck is my dumpster. So I'm charging $800 for my dumpster. So my trip fee went from $225 to $800, and then I charge the
Yeah.
labor on top of it.
Okay, so you're making a lot of money on that end of the business.
Mhm.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Ted?
Hey, it's Joan. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I put this in the chat, but did you have any, thanks for your presentation, by the way. Do you have any increased workers' comp issues with the moving? Because that's always a thing I think about, like people getting hurt.
No, you gotta, and that's a good point, and it speaks to good equipment. Good equipment, training, and you hire people that does it. Most 90% of the time, we are moving into a senior community. Everything goes on wheels. So we'll put it on wheels on the truck. My truck, if in that picture, has a 6-foot lift gate. So I'm not asking my team to run up a ramp. I'm not asking the team to lift it up onto a gate. We wheel it onto the lift gate lifts up, we roll it onto the truck. I can do moves with, not to be gender biased, but I can do moves with anybody on my team. We lift it onto a dolly, we roll it out, we walk it. A lot of times in some of our pictures and presentations, you'll see a lot of our unpacking team, sometimes helping the movers, and they're pushing couches, china cabinets, credenzas, and we have not had a single workers' comp issue yet. We've had some really close ones, but none actually that no issues yet.
Thanks so much.
To that point right there, for any of you that are even considering it, honestly, if you really are going to want to start dabbling in that move business, I would spend the little extra money and rent a Penske truck where you can experience the lift gates versus like a U-Haul where your team is going to exert so much more energy having to push those big, heavy dollies full of furniture up a ramp, right? So
Oh, that's ridiculous.
it's gonna give you a little bit better of a taste, and you're not going to be so like, you're still going to be exhausted at the end of it, but not as bad as if you were having to run everything up and down a ramp, right? So honestly, Penske trucks, anytime we did an out-of-state move where we followed it to the other end, we never took our box trucks. We would always just rent the Penske trucks that had the lift gates. That way we didn't have all that extra wear and tear on our vehicles, but we still had that accessibility to the lift gate. So, you know, just
Yeah, absolutely. If
start
you
to
can get
dabble.
an out-of-state move, you talk about
It's all
really
about-
good margin. Holy smoke.
Yeah, talk about any out-of-state moves you've done. Give them a little taste of what
That margin
looks like, Ted.
that margin is 300%. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's
you guys
it's
are
really
talking
big.
about charging for drive time there, hotels if you're staying overnight, flights
Because
back for your
Yeah.
guys that went there. Like it is.
And
a
I never
massive-
do. I never send the guys. It's me that's doing the driving. Then I hire a third-party move team that they're
On the other
paying
end.
for when they get there. So the entire drive time, all of that's me in the truck, that's me in the hotel, and me on the flights back. So it's that's what makes the margin good when you do the. So
Yeah.
I've only done 5 out-of-state moves like that.
What
but
was your furthest?
my furthest was St. Louis. We did one to St. Louis, and then we have one coming up potentially to Massachusetts, but we're still working on that. But
Oh, wow.
You guys, awesome. Anybody else have any questions before we hop over and switch topics?
Ted, I got
The
one
next
question.
All
This
right,
Al
Yeah.
Rutledge. What caused you to start the moving company itself as a name versus using Carrying Transitions for all of it?
that one might want to be
Because
offline.
Carrying Transitions isn't a moving company, the one part, and then there's the headaches of, again, the scheduling, not having full control. If the movers mess up, they're not wearing your brand, they're not flying your flag. It's just the entire connection and then the income, just giving away a third, or sometimes a half, or sometimes the entire job. Sometimes our families were customizable, so we offer the pack, the move, and the resettle all 3 separately. And when they can pack and they can unpack it, then where's the moving income going? So
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Ted. All right. If you want to switch gears now for the real nitty gritty.
yeah, so this is where it really gets crazy. So we had some disgruntled employees that filed OSHA complaints on us. So OSHA came down on us really hard and sent out an investigation, and come to find out, in the state of Minnesota OSHA, along with federal OSHA, states that we should be protecting our employees at all times, going in all homes, because all homes, according to OSHA, are nasty.
Operations.
That's their exact words, nasty. The amount of air particles they're breathing, we're supposed to be providing N95s, full PPE, goggles, glasses. The 2 specific codes we were fined for was 182.65510A, which is having a hazardous comp program, meaning, and I'll share my screen again here. Having a hazardous comp program. So here is our hazardous comp program now, and it's under, we use Connect Teams, but Connect Teams has an onboarding space, and we start our onboarding process with an acknowledgement of PPE. We have them sign an Appendix D. There's a video on why PPE. And I forgot which one this one is. But those are the reasons. So if you are providing your team members with N95s, the second thing we were written up for was 1904.29, record keeping, and 1910.134C-2-I, which is not having an Appendix D for not providing an Appendix D for our employees when they use an N95 mask, which states that an N95 will protect you from air particulates, viruses, things like that, but it will not protect you from gas, carbon monoxide poisoning, those things. So you essentially letting your team members know, or radon poisoning, it's not going to protect you from those things. And these are things that we didn't know about. And it's not in our training. And it's things that I think that everyone should definitely get in place. Here's our acknowledgement of, oh, we got to change the logo. Woof, no one report us for compliance on this. This is our PP.
First thing I noticed.
We got to change our logo. So personal protective equipment, essentially telling the employee they have to sign and date this. This is what the Appendix D for an N95 means. It states this, that some employees may choose to use filtering. This is something I took directly out of OSHA. So essentially stating that what an N95 is, NIOSH, what its use is, and then there's a little video that we send for why PPE they have to watch. And then there's a quiz. That's what the last one is. We make them take a little quiz about PPE. So you should have, everyone should check with your local state OSHA program to find out what compliance you need to be under. If you have a warehouse, you're not supposed to have bleach. You should not, when you're cleaning, when you're doing a fit and finish for a project or a countertop wipe down and all of that, you should standardize your equipment. If you have bleach and ammonia and all, that is a huge OSHA issue, because you're not supposed to mix the two. And essentially OSHA says that every team member should return to work the exact way they came. So if you go into houses, they return home the exact way they came to work. So if you go into homes with mold, we had to literally recently, we had 2 jobs that we had to just stop because large amounts of black mold were discovered behind furniture pieces, and we just had to pull the team out. So essentially, that's compliance and PPE. There's a lot that goes into that. And I'm not the OSHA expert, although I can just tell you, don't have standardize the use of what chemicals you use. Do not store them on site. If you have an office, physical office or building, only store, we use Windex and Pledge. Those are the 2 cleaning supplies we use.
And Dawn dish soap?
Yeah, I mean, we don't even use Dawn dish soap.
I'm just kidding. Hey, Ted, Oh, I just had a question for you, but I completely just lost it. Hold on.
Nobody wants OSHA to visit. I'm telling you, it's the worst thing on the planet. You're gonna lose about 40 hours of work time just answering. They interview all your team members, all your staff members, and you have no idea what they're saying. But they're asking questions like, do they provide goggles? Are you told to wear goggles on the site? Are you told to wear gloves? Are their gloves free? Are they providing it for free? Like the questions they ask.
Ted, what did you end up doing with the black mold situation? So once you pulled your team out, then what was like your next steps? I actually had an owner ask me about this a couple months ago, and so I just chat GBT'd it, threw it in a Word document, threw a logo on it, and sent that out to him. But curious what your protocols were after that. Like, did you call the owner in or the client in? Did they come in and do some like black mold removal before you guys went back into the project? Or is it still
Yeah,
kind of
it's actually it all depends on the client's budget, but in this case, it was Suzanne's client. She had to call the client, notify the client that we had to pull, that we had to stop due to the amount of mold, that mold remediation was required in order for us to continue. Client was awesome and understood, but we never went back to finish anything. The cost was too much. I mean, in that instance, it wasn't good. The other client was also Suzanne's client, so we had two. And in that case, um, the house was already sold as is. So it was sold, and she was able to work it out with the new owners that these items would be left because unfortunately the mold, and they were tearing, I think they were going to renovate and raise the house anyway. So um, it became their problem. But our current protocol is that the team lead has to stop, pull everyone out the house. They have to provide, or they should always have proper N95s. The team lead should take a photo of it, send it to us, and then we ask them to work in a different area of the house until we figure out what needs to be addressed. But it all depends on the scope of the mold, how much mold there is, things like that.
the training video that you're having them watch in those documents, is it also covering things like black mold and stuff like that, or is it just like more chemical sort of integration?
Well, luckily right now, if you were to go to your OSHA and look up mold, it's only for mold remediation companies. We're not mold remediation companies. So there's some gray area there that you're allowed to skirt. And when Suzanne dug a little deeper and talked to mold remediation companies and found out what their protocol was, they just hired a junk company to come out and pull it out. And that team, that junk company, only used N95s.
Okay.
But you know, we have team members that were in our meetings saying, you know, black mold can get into your eyes. It can get like it's invisible. So right now we're just getting everybody secure goggles, N95s, and ensuring that they have proper PPE, and they just know that we appreciate them and we actually care for their well-being, and we're going to ensure that we always provide the proper PPE necessary for them to complete their tasks. I mean, I have the white suits, the hazmat poopy suits. I have those. I provide those for our clients. And when we ever have to use them, I tell them there's an extra hazard fee that we have to charge, but
Okay.
because I have to buy those supplies for the team.
What is that hazard fee that you're putting in? Is it just depend on this amount of staff or
The amount of hazard.
the things that you're having to buy? Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, anybody else?
Do you require them to wear that stuff or just have to provide it?
Great question, Brad. Legally, I cannot make anyone wear a mask
Right.
legally.
The
But I
firefighter.
am, as it was explained by OSHA, you should be modeling it. Your team lead should be modeling it. I can't write someone up over it. That's illegal too. So what we explain in the meetings is that they are there for your protection. We care about you. You should be wearing them on every job. That is so that we are safe. It is free. We provide it free, and make sure that is very clear. It is provided free. We provide it for you to wear at every job, and you should wear it at every job. If they choose not to wear it, it has been stated, told over and over and over again. That's
Nothing they sign. Yeah, it's written in there. Yep.
Now, maybe I'm remembering this incorrectly. You can correct me if I am, but when I did your Connect Team webinar, I thought you mentioned you also are having them sign some sort of documentation before every type of like really nasty working job. Are you guys still doing that, or is that more now the like DD2 type forms that you're having them fill out?
No, that's the Appendix D in 95. So OSHA says
Okay.
every time they use one, they should sign it. I have them sign it once, but
Once and done.
OSHA
Okay.
says you should. If I have it signed once, it's the same thing, and it's OSHA's way of protecting themselves because they're requiring you to provide it, but it doesn't protect them from gas. So it's their way of covering OSHA's butt because it says that this does not protect you from gases. It's ridiculous, but
Okay.
do you want to add? Suzanne is here.
Oh.
And
Hi.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, like, on those best practices, like in your employee handbook, you should have in there that your best practice, that your standard is that that you are asking your team that they need to wear masks and proper PPE. We do require that our team members have to have it with them. But if OSHA finds out that you're not providing it free of cost and you're not advocating for it, even if you're not creating a culture that is supportive of it, you can get in trouble if you end up dealing with an investigation.
Okay. That's good feedback.
does anybody want to know how much we paid in penalty?
Yeah, I do. You know, I do. I feel-
None of your business. No.
You guys, I just want to kind of jump on this bandwagon with employees.
No, it was like 500 total, around 500, but one of the fines could go up to 10 grand.
It was a small slap on the wrist.
It was a little slap on the wrist, but it was enough for us to be like, but it's really the time, because you have to write and document and write and answer these lists of questions. I am not even, Suzanne was probably.
Yeah, this line right here, that was created
From OSHA.
from OSHA.
Oh my gosh. And they are not, I'm like, they are showing up at your job sites. Random. They're asking for, when do you have jobs? What jobs are what kind of jobs? How do you classify them? What are the dates and times? Please let them know I'll be on site. And you're just like, oh my gosh, it is
Department
such a
for the
nightmare.
restaurant business. The equivalent.
Yeah.
Victory was asking if KN95 masks are okay. Is that something they just need to reference for their state?
In China.
OSHA?
Yeah, it means they're made in China and they're not NIOSH approved.
Okay. So no.
So OSHA does not recognize them as N95s.
Okay.
Are they fine if OSHA was at your door? I would say don't. I don't buy any KN95s anymore. They are 100% N95s
From 3M.
from 3M. But again, my
Just to
experience.
clarify, so you always have one person on every job in a full bodysuit?
No, only if the job. So we have. This is the other thing. Condition of jobs your team should be notified of what condition they're going into. So when we do the walkthrough, Suzanne does it or I do it, on our proposal, we have a condition, the condition of the home. That condition being 1 through 5, 5 being that white suit. So when we're in that consult, if we know that there's rodent urine and feces or human feces or bad smells, lots of dust, those are generally are going to be a 2 to 3, which are N95s, and ensure you wear eye goggles and masks. And yeah, in that goggles, masks, and gloves. A level 4 or 5, that is going to be where it might be a white suit. But we've only had to do that once when we've only used the white suit once, and when our team members had to go up into an attic where I wasn't sure whether there was asbestos. So I just wanted to ensure that they were protected when we sent them up in the attic to remove the items from the attic.
And if you guys want to take a peek at what their like proposal looks like, because they just talked about it, if you guys all watch the recording that Suzanne just did with Liz and the marketing team, she does like a 30-minute presentation, and they kind of scroll through their whole sales like proposal. So if you want to kind of see how that's like laid out, what all they're really doing and adding to that, so you can see the verbiage and the level that they're doing, watch that video, because it's, you guys are missing a lot of content on that one, I promise. Circle back to that.
You'll send that one out, Sherry?
Well, Liz will, because Liz was managing it, so she'll upload it to Fran Connect likely.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be up there in a little bit. If not, it might be already up there right now. I don't know. But yeah.
Cool.
Anybody else have any questions on OSHA regulations?
Are most of those, are the folks that reported you still employed?
No
Yeah, Ted. I'm getting into that one.
Oh, it can get even worse. It gets even worse because it was 2 of them. And one of them tried to rope me into a sexual harassment and another team member in a sexual harassment. Suzanne was witness to the actual event, but we didn't have an HR person. And then we quickly found out that because we're married, we're considered one person.
Oh.
So quickly we had to figure out, you also, it's in your best interest, and Andy Beard can speak on this too. Get an HR person.
I would say if you don't have an HR person, so if you're a husband-wife duo, or just as an owner, whether you're a female owner or male owner, you have to have an unbiased go-to person for your team to go to if there's any issues. So for example, I mean, there's a normal chain of commands in any business, right? Where you report to your supervisor if you have a problem. And if the problem is with that supervisor, then you bypass and go to the next person. I mean, that's kind of standard. But with a husband-wife, we actually have our office manager as the main point of contact. And then of course, if the office manager is an issue, then they can come to Ted or myself. But if all of us are an issue, we actually have another outside contact, just a legalese that in our protocol that they can go directly to that person, because we just want to make sure that it's all about just checking those boxes and making sure you're following, because when it comes down to it, if something were to come back on you, you just don't want any reason why, you know, that you didn't provide them with opportunity and option to solve their problem. So if they're not feeling safe, they don't feel protected, they're whatever it is, if it's not properly addressed by you or that appointed person, then you need a pathway written in policy for them to take their issue to, so that they can't come back and say this company did not follow all the steps and do everything they could to make sure that I was protected and safe.
That compliance piece being, we had an employee literally state those words, and then when we had to let that employee go, that employee went to Department of Labor, filed a suit. Now, this is the same person that sent us to OSHA. And then they try to get us with a lawsuit. But we had everything in Connect Teams. Luckily, all the check-ins, every time that client, that employee was late, failed to do what they were supposed to do, it was all in the group chat. That's all document. But Suzanne, again, had to spend good part of 20 hours writing literally a book to the Department of Labor to explain why this person was terminated and let go, because at the time we did not have HR in place to say this person was counseled and corrected and then went to HR. Andy, if you guys ever want to know, talk to Andy. Andy had a very similar experience, but his did not go the way ours went. So be careful. There are sharks out there in the labor force that know these laws, and they will come into your organization and they will, they will expose this, and they will sink their hooks right into you. And next thing you know, your insurance is writing them off a check for 10 grand, and they're skipping down the road looking for the next, their next victim.
Yeah, you guys, Sherry Gillette has had one lawsuit wrapped up with 5 employees all fighting her for OT, and they all won. Very heavy settlements. And 2 of them were still working with us after they won the settlement. So he's not lying. You have to be careful, and you need to protect yourself from these employees that you might consider family, because believe it or not, 2 of them were like family members to her, and they still sort of betrayed her and did that. So you just really never know. Protect yourself. Educate yourself on your state laws and regulations so you can be in the know of everything and make sure you're compliant with everything. It's too much for us here at home office. Not that I'm saying that we shouldn't be educating you more. That's why I'm doing this, because you guys should be, but it really is also on you guys to educate and understand what your state is regulating and mandating for you guys. And then talking to other owners within this network, that's going to be your biggest, your biggest resource, honestly. What have they been through? What have they done and experienced? And how can you just kind of learn from, I don't want to say mistakes, but just those experiences that they've had to kind of live through already, right? So that's kind of the perk and benefit of being in a brand like this. Anyhow.
I was going to say, if you can find an HR manager that can help you on the back end as well, so you don't feel like you're just adding to your bottom line, actually get someone that might be able to help with scheduling your calls, your Maxim calls, that can help with job costing, getting your invoices out, something that takes the load off of you as the owner so that you can take and create more revenue. We were lucky to find someone that had a finance degree, finance background along with HR background, and they have been a blessing to us because now Suzanne can go out and do sales. Before, Suzanne was tied to the desk and had to deal with all of the back end stuff. And now she's able to generate income. I'm able to generate income, and we're able to grow faster while that office manager, HR person makes our business look more professional, but also we don't feel like we just added to the bottom line for no reason.
I think another avenue before we hired out, I leaned on West Insurance and there was an appointed legal person that can answer some real simple, basic questions. And so I vetted out a few things that route. That's already included in our insurance package. So I would check with your current insurance carrier and see if they have some, free complimentary legal guidance. Otherwise, of course, LegalZoom is a great resource as well to supplement if you don't have an extra staff member on hand for that. But compliance wise, I would say just high level overview. Make sure you have a handbook. Make sure your handbook clearly states that equal opportunity, that, all employees have the rights, you know, that has the basic language there. It has the basic language for how employees are paid over time, those pieces, basic language for some of the OSHA pieces, you just kind of what your baseline expectation is, and you cover a lot just with having that employee handbook, and they have to acknowledge and sign it. That needs to be a part of your onboarding process. You keep that on file, on record. We unfortunately we were too busy when we first started, and then we just kind of hit the back burner, and we just focused on, you know, other important things, as you do as any owner. And so and then when it was most important, we didn't have our ducks in a row. And so getting your ducks in a row with that right away is critical. On the OSHA piece, Minnesota has a separate OSHA compliance agency. Obviously, OSHA is a federal agency, so check to see if your own state has a sub agency overhead. And then the most important piece with OSHA is just that your team members know that PPE is available to them free of charge. The company pays for it, and they can get equipped with it on the company's dime. So if you're requiring them to come to whatever, if you have a warehouse or an office, whatever it is, that they get paid while they're there at the office stocking up on their OSHA equipment. You have to pay for that time. And you have to pay for any PPE equipment and making sure that you have some sort of process around refilling that. Yeah.
Awesome.
I have a
Thank
question.
you.
Do you
Yes, go
have,
ahead.
do you, when you said you refer back to your documentation, I mean, we owned a restaurant for almost 18 years, and it was very old school, trying to keep track of everybody's files and having the managers actually write a PAF, or if they had to write somebody up. And I would just tell them how critical it was to just write it down. Even if you don't have to have a conversation with them, just write it down. They were half an hour late. They didn't do this when they were asked to do that, just to keep your documentation. But do you guys have an app, or do you use Trello, or do you have a specific app that is a little easier going on?
Before we had our office manager, I was just simply documenting it via email, and then I would save that email in that employee file. So I would just simply say, had a verbal conversation with Mary. We discussed XYZ. Mary understands that this is our best practice and protocol. And, that was the summary of that conversation. I wasn't super formal about it, but I did document that a conversation took place. If an actual counseling correction statement was required, we did have those on file. And then of course I'm getting that employee to sign that. I will tell you from an HR background, if you do have, if you implement some sort of counseling correction, and if you ever get to some unemployment claim because you terminated someone for a cause, you have to outline and build a case. So it has to be, Ted was late on this date, and it is required that he understands he is supposed to be on time moving forward. Okay, Ted signs. And the next week, Ted's late again. So we write Ted up. Ted, this is the second time he was late. Next offense will require a 5-day suspension.
They quit.
Right. That usually is what happens anyways. But you have to build that case, because if you're not outlining what the offense was and then what the solution is, and that the employee understands that if they don't follow this rule, this consequence is going to take place. Unemployment, judge can come back to you and say, well, unfortunately, the employee just didn't understand. You weren't very clear with what the expectations were, and you weren't very clear with the rules and policies, and it's not noted in your handbook. So unfortunately, this employee does qualify for unemployment now, and your rate's gonna go up.
This is probably more relevant this part of the compliance piece is the HR stuff, because we know that we all have employees. You hire someone during the interview process, they're telling you the moon, the stars, and the suns, and they're going to deliver it all to you and at your feet in the morning. And then 3 months later, you find out like they are lazy, they are stealing from you, they are stealing from clients' homes, or and you cannot fire for stealing. Like
You can't accuse
you
them.
can't accuse them. You definitely, even if you have it on camera, you can't accuse them. It's
You could be detrimenting their character. Then they can sue you because you're calling them a thief and you don't have any proof that they're a thief.
Well, and check with your state too, guys. I know I used to live in Minnesota too. It's okay if the employee refuses to sign it. You can write on there, employee refused to sign as well. But check with your state and check with your local workforce center to make sure that's legal in your state. I know in Minnesota you can get away with that, but I'm not sure if that's everywhere.
Yeah.
So just to be aware, if they refuse to sign it, that does not make it any less valid. You just have to have it written up and presented. So, and in your case where you're married, potentially also having somebody else being there to witness the conversation when it starts to get more serious can help you in that if they refuse to sign. So just be cautious there as well.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions on compliance, HR, OSHA?
With the married thing, does it have to be an employee of Caring Transitions if there's a third person, like if you have that other person in that conversation?
I would check with your local workforce center to see what they require.
Okay.
Yeah, I can tell you here, the Department of Labor does not distinguish the difference because there's bias. So even though Suzanne heard what the employee stated to me, even though Suzanne was present for hearing that, if the employee says that they feel uncomfortable and Suzanne, or here's what happened, and even if Suzanne said, okay, I'm going to have a third party person talk to you, that person had to have from the beginning or in the employee handbook been the person that should have, like, you can't just pull in someone random because it's a private matter. So that person, that third party person, has to be in your employee handbook as the designated person to talk to. You can't just bring in a random third or on the spot type of third, if that answers that question.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Ted. I really appreciate you hopping on here, and you too, Suzanne, just for giving us a little guest appearance. We appreciate that. I will send out the recording and the notes from this meeting to all of you guys in a little bit once it uploads, but you guys can reach out to Ted and Suzanne Austin. They're training, they're a training center also. So they're used to working with rookie owners and getting all the questions, and they really are going to be a really great resource for you just for anything and everything, really. They're just so creative out there. They're doing all kinds of different things outside of the box. So, reach out, get to know them a little bit more. I promise you won't miss out on anything if you do.
Very informative, Ted. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for everyone that showed up. I'll tell you that if Suzanne and I and Cherie, you know this, I mean, we were 2 months in. If you don't take the time out to work on your business, which you all are doing, you will never work on your business. It is so hard. You get wrapped up into things. It is so important to keep learning, and we can learn. We went out to see Cherie and Sherry like 3 months in. We had no idea what we were doing. But we still just like, we're going to go take a site visit, and took a site visit with John Russell. We love to go and learn from other owners as well, because I guarantee you there's things that you guys are doing where if we were spending time with you, we'd be like, oh my gosh, that's simple. Why aren't we doing that?
Yeah, it's true.
That's
It's
smart.
true.
So
That's the best
share
part of
amongst
conference.
yourselves. Yes.
It really is. It really is being around everybody all the time. Anyhow, awesome. I appreciate it so much, Ted. Thank you again. And I'll send out your contact info for everybody as well. Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of your week. We'll chat later.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.